All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Rocky Top Insider Reaction Show. This is Ryan Shumpert. I am Rick Butler here in the Food City Center after number 5 Tennessee picks up an 81-76 win over Vanderbilt in a rematch game from the previous loss in Nashville, but also in a comeback victory that we will certainly dive into here in a second. It's kind of funny, this result. Tennessee wasn't able to get the revenge victory against Kentucky and Lexington earlier in the week, but is able to come home and really uses a gigantic second half in order to get this victory. Vanderbilt led by 13 at the half, but Tennessee outscored them by 18 in the second half. Really, it's a cliche. It's one of our favorite cliches, but a tale of two halves.
Happened a lot this
What'd you
season.
see?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is prisoner of the moment, maybe recency bias, but that was about as bad as a half Tennessee's played at home, at least under Rick Barnes. I mean, just completely uninspired, not locked into the scouting report. Didn't seem like they played with any energy or purpose. Terrible defensively. I mean, you can go on and on down the list, and it was just a flip from right at the start of the second half. I mean, Tennessee did not score in their first 3 possessions in the second half, but even in that stretch, you could tell just a completely different energy. I think they grabbed an offensive rebound in one of those possessions, which I think they only had one offensive rebound in the whole first half. They got dominated in the glass in the first half, and Tennessee was able to channel that. And I mean, really, the thing is, Tennessee took the lead with 8 minutes left, and then in the final 8 minutes, they were leading for most of it, but Vanderbilt didn't go away. Jason Edwards hit a bunch of huge shots and was really good. So Tennessee, in that first 12 minutes of the second half, made up for the deficit and then found a way to get it done.
Yeah, and you mentioned that just sort of the I don't know, the difference between the two halves. And we were talking about it at halftime, just kind of trying to figure out what that was, the last 20 minutes was. I didn't think that we over-exaggerated or anything, but then Rick Barnes starts his press conference by saying, hey, that first half was flat out, quote, awful. Right? So that did feel a little bit justifying there. But I think when you talk about this game, you got to talk about Zakai Zeigler. Did not record a point in the first half. Put up 22 points, and I believe it was 20 minutes in the second half.
So as well.
He was unbelievable for Tennessee, and he was doing everything on the court. He was not only giving them some energy and giving them some leadership when they needed it, but obviously you saw it from the scoring. He ends the game with 5 of 6 from the free throw line, 3 of 4 from three-point range, and then 7-11 from the court overall. Plays just a tick under 37 minutes in the game. 8 assists as well, as he normally does. I believe he moved into 5th in all-time conference history in steals.
I didn't see that stat.
Something like that.
Sounds about right.
It's around there. Don't quote me there. But, man, a true difference maker in this game. And no way Tennessee could have gotten this comeback done if it wasn't for him leading the charge.
No, you're right. In Tennessee, I think I posted something like this. You know, Tennessee, whole team played a lot better in the second half. But just what you said, they don't win without Zakai doing what he did. 7 of 9 shooting in the second half. You said 7-11 for the game. He missed his 2 shots he took in the first half. Rick Barnes talked about challenging him at halftime in a way he typically doesn't challenge him, doesn't have to challenge him, and you saw him respond. And I think really what stands out is closing time too. Tennessee's essentially final 6 possessions, they got a rebound and Chaz Lanier hit a free throw and they were up by 4 with like 8 seconds left. But before that, 6 possessions before that, Zakai Zeigler drove and finished at the basket. He drove and got fouled at the basket, hit 2 free throws. Both those possessions gave Tennessee the lead. Next possession Tennessee had, he crossed his man to the ground, threw a nice pass to Jemai Meshack, who knocked down an open 3, big shot there. Possession after that was a Jordan Gainey basket. Possession after that, Zakai got fouled, hit 2 free throws, and then, the possession of the game. Tennessee up by 2. They took a timeout with 25 seconds left. I think there was like 12 seconds between the shot clock and the game clock. He got to the basket, he scored. He put Tennessee up by 2 scores in the final seconds. What really iced the game. So he was really good the entire second half, and then in the closing minutes, he was just phenomenal. And you compare this game to Tuesday night when Tennessee scored 4 points coming out of the under 4 timeout, got outscored, I think, 17-4 down the stretch. Tonight they were really good down the stretch offensively and to a lesser extent defensively, and Zeigler was a huge reason why.
And you talk about a guy like Zakai Zeigler, you know it when it happens, but also give Tennessee's crowd a lot of credit for that second half. They really came to life. It felt like especially Zeigler, but the whole team in total were feeding off of what the crowd was able to do. Chaz Lanier scores 21 points, just one below Zakai Zeigler's number. He goes 13 points in the first half, 8 points in the second half of action. But again, that's sort of that Chaz Lanier that we've talked about that can be a little bit hit or miss. But man, when he's on, he's doing some extremely productive things, scoring the basketball for this team.
Yeah, I think it's the fact he scored 20 and hit 2 threes tonight. Now, granted, he still shot. He hit a bunch of mid-range jump shots and some deep 2s.
And only 1 free throw.
Yeah, I mean, it's
1 out of 2, but
yeah, that right at the end of the game, that last rebound.
Right.
I mean, we're kind of past the point at this point where you think it's going to happen. He's going to add it. Jocelyn Air needs to add a sidestep, a side dribble. He pump fakes and takes one dribble in and takes a lot of deep threes. He needs to figure out that Santiago Vescovi sidestep, hit a three. But he hit some shots, but he also got downhill a few times, scored at the basket, had some buckets there. And then again, that's the big thing. Jocelyn Air finding ways to score when he's without hitting three-pointers and not just being so one-dimensional. And he did that today, and I think you're seeing more and more the divides. I mean, I probably should go add it up. He just seems like a much, much better player at home than the road. He's not played well on the road for Tennessee. He just seems like he's a different guy in this building.
Well, Tennessee's got 2 home games left this season. I believe 5 games after this, but 2 games left at home. It'll be Alabama on March 1st and then South Carolina on March 8th. Just, Ryan, what are you looking at as Tennessee heads in these last 5 games as we kind of wrap up this reaction show here?
Yeah, well, they go into their open midweek here this week.
Right.
And then they go play Texas A&M next Saturday, which is going to be
who had an 8-point win over Arkansas today at home,
which is a really, really big game for them. A&M's really good. The NCAA tournament, they released, like the bracket committee releases 4 weeks before Selection Sunday, so 4 weeks in a day today.
Right.
Their top 4 seeds that are top 16 teams, Tennessee and A&M, were both on the 2 line today. So a similar type resume at this point in the year. Tennessee's a little bit better, but I guess the thing I would say, the last 5 games now, Tennessee's had 1 really good half offensively and 1 really bad half offensively, and largely it's been maybe not as dramatic offensively, but just as a whole in all these games, 1 good half, 1 bad half. They got to find a way to find some consistency, and I think you saw that, like with what I'm talking about, when Tennessee got this thing to got the lead back with 8 minutes. Well, you play so few guys, and you're playing these guys for extended amount of time, trying to ride them out when you're on a run. It's hard to sustain that for 20 minutes at the same level, just from a fatigue standpoint. So Tennessee does not have the depth, I think, to long-term continue to dig themselves into these holes and expect them to pull themselves out every game. They have a lot of good resolve, good fight. They've played well in the second half, but they got to find a way to not need these big comebacks, which what feels like they knew just about every game. I guess the Oklahoma game is the one stretch in that where they were great in the first half, not fine in the second half. But that's what I'm looking for. Can Tennessee put a complete game together, 2 halves? Because if they do that, this is a really good team. Yeah,
no doubt about it. Still a lot to talk about with this Tennessee basketball team. Like Ryan mentioned, though, no midweek game. This is going to be Tennessee's one bye this season. But we're still going to come back on the RTI Press Pass podcast, kind of share and expand these thoughts a little bit more as we get into the final 5 games of the season. Again, Tennessee picks up a big victory over Vanderbilt today in Knoxville by a score of 81-76, trailed by 13 at the half, ended up outscoring the Commodores by 18 in the final 20 minutes to pick up the 5-point win right here in Knoxville. This is Ryan Shumpert. I'm Rick Butler. Make sure to stay tuned to RockyTopInsider.com as you go on. We got a lot of Tennessee basketball and baseball coverage. Otherwise, hey, we'll see you back for the next one next weekend.